It is 10 a.m. and I am drinking Yamazaki 12 because it's a pandemic and nothing matters anymore. Up is down, left is right, everything's crazy. But one of the craziest parts of 2020 to me, he said facetiously, is that Josh Allen is a good quarterback now. And I'm not talking about shows flashes every now and then, has a high ceiling, maybe one day will reach his potential. I'm talking like right now, legit good quarterback. His ball placement is better, his decision making is better, his improvisational skills, believe it or not, are better, even as a runner. Everything about him has improved. And so that kind of begged the question, between 2018 and 2019 and then 2019 to now, what has changed? Why are we all of a sudden seeing this version of Josh Allen that's throwing for 350 yards a game and making very few mistakes and leading, in my opinion, a very dangerous Buffalo Bills team? What caused this change? I've studied his first two games from 2020 pretty extensively now, as well as a lot of his 2019 and a little bit of his 2018. And I consulted with some quarterback coaches that I know, most notably Quincy Avery, who's Deshaun Watson's quarterback coach. He works with Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, Jalen Hurts. And I got his opinion, as well as my buddy Eric Turner, who works for Cover One. He's one of the premier, if not the premier, Buffalo Bills film gurus out there. And what I noticed on tape, they were able to back up, and it's that mechanically, Josh Allen has finally become a very comfortable rotational passer. Now, you might ask what rotational passer even means, and I'm talking about the mechanics of throwing a football. Just like real estate is location, 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 throwing a football accurately is rotation, rotation, rotation. That is all that matters from a mechanical standpoint, because your velocity and your control all come from the rotation of the hips and how that generates torque through the body into the arm. And the more torque you can generate with your lower body, the more control you're going to have with your arm, because your arm doesn't have to work as hard to throw the ball with velocity. In traditional quarterback footwork, and I'll use Tom Brady as an example because he's kind of the pinnacle of what the mechanics of a pocket passer are supposed to look like, it's really all about leading with your front toe to the target, which will then open up your front knee to the target. And if your toe and your knee are open to the target, that then helps you rotate around that front foot with your back hip to generate torque. You're almost using the front foot as a pivot point for your entire body and then torquing around that front foot with the back hip, almost over-rotating. It's very similar to like a pitcher throwing a fastball off a mound. You know, you are coming down hard on that front foot and then rotating and following through with the back leg. And all of that torque generated with the hips travels up through the torso and then uses your arm as almost like a whip following that rotational force. And if you're using your lower body to generate your velocity, you can then use your arm to focus on control and release point. And so that's kind of the general gist of what the mechanics of a throw are supposed to look like. Obviously, there's elbow angles and high and tight, biting the burger, if you're familiar with the Tom House terminology, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the lower body footwork, that's what it's about. And so as it relates to Josh Allen specifically, I think his accuracy problems last year stemmed from under rotation through the hips and dragging his back leg through the release. When you look at a lot of his worst throws, he was dragging that back foot. And you can even try this at home. If you're trying to throw a ball and you intentionally leave your back foot kind of behind your body and dragging back there, instead of allowing it to naturally follow through and at least get even with your front foot, that back leg almost acts like it's yanking the chain on your release, and you're not able to get your core all the way around, which means your release point is naturally going to be early and high. And so when you look at a lot of his worst throws, they were either dragging to the right or they were carrying high, again, because he was not bringing that back leg through. And so naturally, the question for 2020 was, okay, when we see these numbers and how much he's jumped in terms of accuracy percentage deep down the field, he was in the 30s last year, one of the worst deep ball passers in the league, and now he's one of the best. He's 5th or 6th, and he's only missed one ball all year over 20 yards. And so you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, what did the Bills staff do to suddenly get him to be a rotational passer? And that is what's very interesting, is because the Bills staff has had Allen, again, in this past offseason, which wasn't really a true offseason, they had him add kind of a front foot hop to his release instead of a kind of traditional pivot or an over rotation around a planted foot. they added a hop to his front foot to allow him to then open the toe during his weight transfer. So he's opening the toe and his front knee even more after he plants stepping into the throw. And because he's then opening the toe and the knee a second time, that is then allowing him to finally bring that back foot through. And since he doesn't have a back foot dragging behind him, at least as often, it's not yanking the chain on that release. His release point is solid, which means his ball placement has been phenomenal. And when you pair somebody with his natural arm talent with good ball placement brought on by improved mechanics, and I'll say this, some quarterbacks coaches will not like that front foot hop, but we've seen other quarterbacks do it before, most notably Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, and I even talked to Coach Avery about it. Deshaun Watson does this sometimes, and Justin Fields does it sometimes. It's really more of a comfort thing than anything else. And so even though it's not necessarily traditional footwork, the fact that it is comfortable for these quarterbacks means that they are finally bringing the back leg through, they are rotating through the hips, and their release points are improving, which in the end is kind of all that matters. It doesn't necessarily matter that a release is pretty, it matters that it's effective. And for Josh Allen specifically, this little front foot hop has been extraordinarily effective, both throwing down the middle, throwing deep left, and throwing deep right. He's used it in every single kind of throw, and the results have been truly tremendous. I think the box score kind of speaks for itself on this one for the first time ever. 350 yards a game is 350 yards a game, and honestly, if he keeps playing like this, I don't think that's going to slow down. But it's not just mechanics and therefore accuracy where Allen has improved, but also in the mental side of the game as well. The game has really slowed down for him, and you can tell in terms of how he manipulates defenses with eyes and with his pump fakes, in terms of moving people out of the way to open up passing windows, in terms of how he creates when plays break down. He kind of sees the game at a much quicker pace now. He's reading defenses more effectively before the snap and processing them more effectively after the snap. He's just making better decisions overall. And when you package better decision making with better accuracy, in addition to his natural talent as a runner, it's not hard to see why he's had back-to-back career days in the first 2 weeks of 2020. Regardless of the defenses he's gone against, he's just flat out a whole new quarterback. And I'll show you a few examples of what I mean in terms of how he's progressed mentally at the position. But before I do, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for the week, Hawthorne. Hawthorne is a premium tailored men's grooming brand that is helping guys all over the world look, smell, and feel their best. All you have to do is take a quick quiz online at Hawthorne's website, where they ask you questions on everything from your type of skin, to your type of hair, to your favorite fragrance, and of course your favorite drink. And they'll come up with a personalized list of products from their catalog that fit your needs. And from there, you can pick which ones you want and which ones you don't. Personally, my favorite items I've gotten from Hawthorne so far, other than the shampoo and the conditioner, which made my hair feel really, really nice, are these two colognes called Work and Play. Much different scents. Work is a lot darker, more woodsier. Play is a lot lighter, more sweeter. My wife prefers when I wear this one. I like Work better, but what can I say? I wear these basically every time I go out, which I guess isn't that much these days because the world's kind of ending. But when we get back to normal, whenever that may be, I'm going to be wearing these pretty much every single time I go out to dinner because they smell amazing. If you take the quiz yourself and you decide there's some of these products you want to try on your own, Hawthorne takes all of the risk out of it because you get free shipping in your order and on any returns. And I hear that if you don't like your products, they'll even retailer them for you based on your feedback. I definitely think you should give Hawthorne a shot, and if you do like anything in their catalog, you can use promo code FILMROOM10 to get 10% off your first order. Again, at the link in the description below on Hawthorne's website, that is FILMROOM10 for the promo code to get 10% off your first order. Again, thank you to Hawthorne for sponsoring this week's show, and with that, let's talk about how Josh Allen has become a much smarter and more efficient decision maker. There has been a dramatic difference so far this season in how Allen reads defenses. For the first 2 years of his career, mostly in his rookie year, but a little bit last year too, there were a lot of throws that Allen made where you could tell he was processing the defense, but he either wasn't doing it quickly enough, or he didn't really have a great understanding of how certain defenses would be structured against certain pass concepts, which can of course change a read pretty substantially. For instance, early in last season against the Patriots, he threw a pick to Devin McCourty on a post route over the middle against Tampa 2, and you could tell he was really surprised by that because in his head he's thinking, okay, 2 high safeties, work the deep middle. But the thing is that Tampa 2 coverage against a 3-by-1 look on offense, in this case here it's a bunch look to the right, these 2 high safeties are not just going to automatically expand and give you the middle of the field. That's not how it works in the NFL. In the pros, they'll play it more like a match quarter style, even though it's Tampa 2 coverage, and they'll have this boundary corner be what's called megged on the isolated receiver, which means man everywhere he goes, and then this backside safety will be playing a poach technique, meaning he's responsible for any number 3 receiver running deep to his side, or if they only run 1 receiver deep in the middle, he has the freedom to undercut the route and pick it off, since he has no real responsibility for giving this megged up boundary corner bracket help over the top. Allen expected a wide open gap in the middle because it's Tampa 2, but that gap was never ever going to be there. What he should have done here was just read out the high-low on the field side corner, Stephon Gilmore, which would have told him to take the check down wide open in the flat for whatever yardage he could get on first down. Again, that pick was a learning experience for Allen, and I think the biggest lesson he took away from it is that even simple coverages are not so simple depending on what the offense is trying to do to them, and those coverages can change dramatically, even while being technically the same coverage, just because of the offensive play that's called. When you watch how Allen processes defenses in 2020, he's doing it in a lot more anticipatory way, not in terms of reading the offensive play, but in terms of knowing how a defense is going to react to it. And because he knows how a defense is generally going to be reacting to the play called, he's not getting fooled by basic coverages anymore. You see him working through progressions from within the pocket, you see him eyeing backside safeties and making sure he's got windows before he pulls the trigger, and you even see him using formation indicators and motion indicators pre-snap to ID man or zone so he can work the appropriate reads within the concepts. You saw him shredding the Jets defense that was playing mostly cover 2 in all of week 1, and then you saw him shred Miami playing mostly cover 1 and cover 3 in week 2. No matter what he's seen, he's been excellent. There was even a sequence in the Jets game where we saw him get into a little bit of a cat and mouse game at the line of scrimmage where he identified what kind of looked to me like a cover 3 soft sky look, and he changed the play appropriately, and then the Jets made their own adjustments after Allen's adjustments, and they showed a 0 blitz look with the free safety walking down to bring pressure. So in response to that, Allen changed the play yet again and got a free touchdown on a screen to John Brown where he went completely untouched. That to me is growth, to have Allen get in and out of plays multiple times at the line of scrimmage based on the defense changing pictures on him, and for him to be right in his adjustments. That's what a good veteran quarterback does. He's finally at that level where he's getting hard to trick. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean he's impossible to confuse. Miami damn near got him a couple times last week on some looks that Allen probably hasn't seen very much of before, including a dropped pick 6 by Kyle Van Noy on a coverage that, at least to me, looked like cover 1 funnel with a simulated pressure built in, which is not a very common thing that most defenses run, to say the least. And Allen did not expect Van Noy to just cut into the passing lane, but again, the fact that it took a really exotic look like that one just to almost pick him off, that to me signals progress for Allen. The game is slowing down for him. We can see that in real time. And I know the Jets are a bad team, and I know the Dolphins are a work in progress, but a good throw is a good throw, and a good decision is a good decision. Some of those deep crosses that he was throwing to Diggs and Beasley, even outside the pocket, were just flat out ridiculous, like top 1% of 1% of throws you'll ever see. In particular, one to Diggs, I swear to God it scraped Noah Igbenogany's fingernails before it slipped into Diggs' hands. It was just ridiculous placement. And the thing is that Josh Allen of old would not have been able to make that throw. He would have sailed it 5 yards wide because he just wasn't accurate before, but now, after his mechanical changes, he is. I don't want to say he's all the way there yet, but again, I get a lot of the same vibes from Josh Allen in 2020 that I got from Lamar Jackson in 2019. Good tape is good tape, and this is some damn good tape. Will there be some down weeks? Yes, of course. Even Lamar had a bad game last year in a unanimous MVP season because the Steelers were able to tee off on him and force some turnovers, and he looked human for a night. That's going to happen to Josh Allen too, maybe even more than it does to Lamar, but it will happen. But on the whole, his development is working. He's gotten better every single year. And in year 3, he's taken a leap that I honestly didn't think was possible. I don't want to say I completely shat on the pick when it was made back in 2017 or 2018 or whatever year it was, but I wasn't super enthusiastic about it. Honestly, because I wasn't sure what this Bills coaching staff was going to be able to do with him. Little did I know that Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott would be able to turn him into a monster within 3 years. So I really do want to raise a glass to Sean McDermott and that whole staff, because you have unlocked potential that I didn't even know that Josh Allen had. We knew he had the physical talent, but in terms of his ability to grow as a quarterback in the little things, mechanically, mentally, he's phenomenal. And by extension, this coaching staff is pretty phenomenal as well. And of course, I also want to raise a glass to Josh Allen in particular, because you proved me wrong, dude. I know you're never going to watch this and you don't know who I am, but you proved me wrong. You proved everybody wrong, except the most hardcore of hardcore Bills fans. Nobody expected this, and yet here you are. Job well done. Will this Bills team make a lot of noise in January, assuming they make the playoffs, which I think they will? Yeah, they'll probably make it pretty far, but at the end of the day, Baltimore is still a buzzsaw, and Kansas City is still Kansas City, so it's tough to call them Super Bowl favorites. At worst, they're Super Bowl contenders, which means, to me, this is still one of the best Bills teams of the last several decades. They have a chance, a legitimate chance, to do something special. Something that most Bills teams in their franchise's history have only dreamed about doing. And that, in my opinion, is worth drinking to. Cheers.